Recording in progress.
All right, I think we're live.
Who left? Come back. Come back, Shane Rose. Rose, come back. Oh, it's kind of hungry.
That's a chocolate tamale.
Chocolate, masa, banana.
All right.
Did you get one?
Not yet. I will. I trust. Tiana always brings the goods. We're recording. Hi, guys. There's our camera. So we're here for another edition of Tea Drunk. I am not tea drunk yet.
Not
I
yet.
am
Let's
your
get
host,
on that.
Dave Way. We got Shannon and special guest today, Mr. Matt Lucas of the Yama System. Lovingly termed Haircut and Lukey Dookie. These are some of the nicknames we give him. And Zuki, Shannon Zuki is Zuki.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Good nickname.
Dragon, we have a special episode today because Shannon requested an extra half hour.
Yeah.
Okay.
I figured that it would be a good idea, mostly because, and we'll talk about the moment that we're in right now in the season. But one of the aspects of this moment in the season that we're in is to back up and review. And just because, I've been fielding, we talk about this all the time, like what the Dragon year actually has in us to work, what's possible. And then we'll talk about it at length and get a whole video on it, such a presentation. But it might be nice to kind of back up. Right. What's everybody's experience so far? Because we're sort of in between two seasons. Right now, we're in between spring and summer. And so this is the perfect time to kind of figure out, well, step back and review, not really push forward, but kind of take it in. Like we've covered a lot of territory. So where are we? What's the way forward look like? Because once summer actually hits, there's not a whole lot of room for it. It's just go. But what does that mean in the context of wood dragon? And so my intention is to just talk about the 5 elements. And then how that relates to what is possible, what one might expect from a wood dragon year now that we're
Got it.
This is what we said in the beginning of the year. How do we look now? It's just, it's a practice. That's interesting for me because I'm, obviously a physician, a student, so sharing these reflections. But there was a lot of thoughts I had about in the beginning of the year about what was possible in the wood dragon year that I'm second guessing. I'm just like, well, maybe that was optimistic about what was possible.
So,
And that has to do with the nature of the wood element.
Could you give us one teaser? What was one of the things that you feel?
The biggest one that I had was that this is the end of morbidity.
oh no, there's plenty more.
And there's actually plenty more morbid. Yeah, it's
Plenty more
still
morbid.
coming.
Still morbid is made up of 2 words, more and bid, so whatever that means.
It's still coming, And so I think that has a lot to do with the nature of the time in which I was actually making those statements, that we were in a fire tiger moon. And so there's plenty of just crazy. No, but at the time in which I was doing the presentation of the fire tiger moon. So there's plenty of latitude for me to go, break through morbidity. Now is the time. And I remember everybody kind of going, oh, really?
Are you blaming it on astrology?
I am partly, yeah. The way I practice this on a daily basis is just recognizing that every experience I have is in some way informed by the time.
Yeah.
So that's a little bit crazy to think about, actually.
So we're gonna sum it up today because it's about to get hot for the summer, and once it's hot for the summer, there's no more time.
The heat's on. Yeah.
So get the strategy set now.
That's
Like,
kind of the idea, you know, like when in relationship to, just in relationship to the time we're in, as we talked about in the talk we did, is that there's 5 elements in the Chinese tradition, and 4 of them are associated with specific seasons. You know, wood is associated with spring, fire is associated with summer, metal with fall, water with winter.
So I have a question about that. So we're Earth, Dragon, Moon, and Earth is native element to Dragon.
Right.
However, you just said that wood is spring and summer is fire. And
Yeah.
then, so I'm curious if a native element to an animal, is that their starting point? So would Earth then be the spring for the dragon, or like what phase is my
Trying to
Question.
understand your question.
yeah.
You mean like specific to dragons?
Yeah, what does it mean that that's the native element of an animal
Oh.
relative to its phase in a cycle?
Oh, great, yeah. The idea behind the native elements is that each of the earthly branches are an expression of one of the 5 elements, natively.
Mhm.
So if we're talking about pigs, they are natively a water element expression. They're a yin water element expression because they come in pairs. So when you say pig, you're saying yin water. That's exactly what pig means. It means yin water. It means a certain characteristic that you could describe as yin water. So everything in observance, everything that comes into appearance is compound and processional. This is the basic understanding in the cosmology. And that part of that compound is, of course, yin and yang. That one thing changes into another. But the major sort of components of this compound situation are the 5 elements. Like everything in appearance is either some relationship between the 5 elements, either being in a creative cycle or in a destructive cycle or in an enabling cycle. There's a lot of different ways to talk about the relationships to the 5 elements. And so everything in appearance is expressing some cycle in the 5 elements, without exception. You know, even those things that are in observance are themselves expressions of the 5 elements.
I would like to say I really appreciate that you're going back to this, because we always talk about journaling and stuff, but a good thing that I'm trying to build the discipline of is going back. Because like whether you're a business owner or whether you're in a practice or anything, it's always nice to like just keep reviewing the reason why, or like the wisdom that you and see if you're
Right.
still on the track. I'm
Right.
always having to like, oh yeah, what was I doing? Oh yeah, because things pile up.
In my writing, like it's my habit, like in my daily writings, it's definitely my habit to say, I need to make a big statement. I need to make an overall, this is the overall snapshot of how the system works. And then you move into like the topic of the day. All right. So, and this is the time for that, you know, because the notion behind spring is that a whole lot of things have popped up. You know, like that's how spring works. It just throws everything open, right? And then as you actually want to get serious about something, then you have to work on where you have your rapport. What's your rapport to your resources, to your your own motivations, to your alliances, right? So if you're stuck in a dead-end job and you're driving, 2 hours to and from work and you hate it, you don't have a rapport with your job. So, but you have to come into contact with them. We're not conditioned to actually recognize and to have the engagement of like, how do I feel when I do these things? So this is this particular period that we just began a few days ago and will end right around May, early May, is like crucial because you have the dragon, which is an earth elements situation. And then you also have the solar terms of the chi nodes. And right now we're in an earth element situation in that. So they're now overlapping. So you have 2 major indicators like saying the same thing, which is step back, review. It's a time for things to kind of move forward on their own, but you don't take that kind of vigor as an excuse to just push forward just because you can. Like, it's a good idea to really take a step back and observe what's actually flourishing, what has integrity. Dragons are basically an emblem of integrity. Yeah, you're welcome.
I am not going, now I need to go back and review
Yeah,
some stuff.
review.
Yeah, when Matt opens up his shirt, just
Yeah.
integrity.
Yeah. Hey, everybody.
And what's meant by that,
All the
this
children
kind
I've
of
saved.
this kind of integrity is an alignment. It's being in alignment with heaven. We've talked about this before. The difference between the West and the East when they talk about this word heaven is that in the West, it's a license to command nature. That's pretty much what it is, right? That we're not from here, we're going someplace else, and we can pollute and destroy all we want because, you know, we have a license to command.
Mhm.
Whereas the relationship of when the use of that word heaven has to do in the East is a partnership and understanding that there's a lot more going on here than just what my own particular needs or desires are. And I have to take a broad view to see where I fit in, what's actually available, where's my rapport.
Wow, so instead of a license to ill, it's a license to chill.
Very much so. It's the assumption that the more, this is why reluctance is such a strong value.
Hold on that face.
Shout out Beastie Boys.
Well, I mean, my writing over the past, this entire year has been around frequency of, meaning like, what is my frequency of check-in? And I've learned that like, so many things are flying at me. I'm reminding myself my discipline is to just do kind of one thing at a time and to keep checking in. And so my frequency isn't how many things am I doing? It's how many times I'm going to check in to keep reminding myself until it becomes a habit. So I literally every morning when I wake up, I look at a thing that I wrote at the beginning of the year and I rewrite it and I kind of report sort of what I've done and what I'm about to be doing. And I see if it's in line with that.
Yeah.
And man, it's a crazy discipline to stay in because my frequency has to be like really a lot. Normally my old frequency is maybe once a month I check in or once every 3 months. But now since I'm trying a new thing, it's very difficult to stay. So I need to constantly, it's like when an addict is trying to sober up, they have to remind themselves every time they look in the mirror. Yeah, step by step.
Every morning,
Mhm.
you know, or the prostrations that the Muslims make them pray 5 times a day.
Yeah,
You know, like it's that kind of level of tenacity that's required to sort of call in the situation to work on its own. And there's a lot of like, especially this time of year, there's a lot of offerings to like the god of wealth or the earth god, right? Just to recognize that, okay, fecundity in abundance, it means like it can go in any direction.
What's
like,
that?
Hey, this is my friend Fecundity.
Fecundity is like, just like the wide open fertility of nature. Completely, yeah, like anybody can get with anyone else, like that's kind of like,
Like an Osho party.
eventually
We're all-
everybody will mate with everyone else, you know, that is the idea behind.
I was
Nature.
born in a small town.
So you have this kind of like wide open situation, and if you want certain things to happen, you really need to start making offerings and appreciation of that fecundity. And and keep making offerings to like the earth god. So the last solar term was about giving thanks to our ancestors for helping us through the winter, because at that particular time we were freed from that kind of winter situation. Finally, like Yang had like overcome yin, and it's only up from here is the vibe. So that's why a lot of people go sweet tunes, because they're like, we made it. Thank you for your guidance. Let us know if we can help you. So it's a give back one. And in the case of this particular Chino, which is the final Chino before we actually go into summer, it's about like heaping offerings on this, nature, this god of nature, the earth god, to really pray for, and to call forward like all the things that could happen.
The web you've woven is so catch me up. We're in we're in a wood dragon year.
Yeah, wood dragon
We're in
year.
a Fire tiger month.
We're in the earth dragon
Month, okay, moon,
Yeah.
okay, and. All right.
Right, and then, so the earth dragon moon in and of itself
Mhm.
is this kind of crowning the prince.
Okay.
Right, moment. That is the whole notion, like, we know that we're gonna make it now, like, we know that summer is coming back. And we know that potential is arriving and really taking form, instead of just a wide open situation, which is what wood is all about in the spring. It's just a wide open situation,
Mhm.
like, lots of potential, but we have no idea how it's gonna turn out. We have no idea what direction it's gonna go.
Mhm.
We just know that there's a ton of things happening, but we don't really know during those first 2 moons of spring, pretty clueless.
A lot of fecundity.
Yes, and a lot of cluelessness, like completely like not really able to like drill down on what it's all about.
Would you say it's very fecund? I'm learning here, man. I'm sorry. I love people with a vocabulary, so it's so super entertaining.
What are we drinking?
Great segue. So we're drinking some more of that 757.
Oh, yeah, okay, cool.
It's good
Yeah.
and I can't stop enjoying
Is
it.
this the stuff we filmed?
Yeah,
Yeah,
It's really good.
yeah. And I've been busting out the big ones lately.
So we rent it back.
Mhm.
Yeah, so it's perfect for the time. We rent it back for review.
See?
Let's not start anything new. Let's be in place and look and see what we have.
Can I pose a question to the people listening? If you guys have not tried his dragon tea, what is that, dragon tea?
Yeah.
That is amazing, and I'm not I have a horrible palate and I'm new at all this. But when I tasted that stuff, it blew me, everyone at the table said, whoa, and it changes so fast, so I would suggest jump on is it on the tea, how do they get it? Cause I've been talking it up.
You know, I don't sell that one because that has me going to the post office. I'm not trying to go
Yeah,
to the post
okay, never
office.
mind, if you guys haven't tried that dragon tea,
You're gonna have to get a hold of
you're
Dave.
just gonna have to figure out how to get.
Figure it out.
Yeah.
Not for everybody.
Yeah,
Those doors.
like and subscribe.
But this tea, this is the 7572 that we ordered for Dragon Air. It's incredible. It has that petrichor aroma.
Yeah.
You know, that wet moss morning dew, footsteps in the forest kind of smell.
Yeah. So earth element.
Mhm.
The interesting thing about where we are just in terms of the year, and this is I think, the thing that I want to talk about the most when it comes to the 5 element situation. And then how that relates to the dragon, the wood dragon,
Mhm.
and then how that relates to like where we are now and where we're going.
Okay.
So of the 5 elements, water, wood, fire, earth, and metal, only 2 of them have a great deal of staying power, and that's earth and water.
Mhm.
Because it's eating and sleeping, living and dying, like everything that is manifest in existence is earth element, fundamentally, making its way toward water, like to the end and the dissolution of everything, right? So those are the 2 fundamental stages that tend to last the longest and tend to be the ones that we identify with
Fascinating.
most primarily. So they take up a lot of space.
You're a water pig, right?
No, middle, yeah. So they tend to take up a lot of space in our experience when we're talking about things that are appearance and disappearance of life, right? Tends to be a lot of earth and water. They are, if we're looking at it from a religious standpoint, they are all the traditions of the world and all the mysticism, right? So those take up a lot of space on the bus, right? They do a lot of heavy lifting in our experience. Everything else is sort of either leading to or leading away from those things. And so when we're talking about the wood element, which is appropriate when we're talking about what we can expect from a wood dragon here, We're talking about like basically urges that come out of nowhere and that we have no real explanation for. I mean, wood element is basically the baby in the arms of water. And it's about to jump out of its arms and start running and then become fire, which is also very abstract, fire itself doesn't really take any form until it becomes earth.
So 5 elements, 4 seasons. Are they all kind of underneath the earth blanket?
That's correct, yeah, like, so earth itself, and that's
On top of the
appropriate,
earth?
yeah, that's appropriate to the time that we're in this moment. Earth itself is basically facilitating the transition. Because it is the supposition of stability, that one thing changes into another. Earth itself means like perseverance. It means that nothing stays the same, it's on its way to something else. So earth element, and there's 4 expressions of earth element through the year that serve as this kind of pivot point and help transition one season into the next. So we're in the first one of the year, which happens to be from spring, the wood element into fire. And so in this moment, there's a kind of like instability, to be honest, like wood is kind of, unsure of itself still, and fire really still hasn't gotten going. So you need to have this kind of earth element moment to step back, reflect. Earth is a lot about reflection and retrospection.
Slow, smooth.
Right, like what's worked? We've got a lot of really good ideas, but what's worked? And then how do we plug into that? How do we integrate new ideas into what's worked? So that when we get the high octane fuel, we'll be able to handle it. The biggest issue really for our modern society, not that I can identify the single biggest issue, but like from this cosmology standpoint, is that we don't preserve yin because we're so obsessed with yang qi. Right? We're so obsessed with movement and production and doing that we exhaust our potential way before it's time to actually multitask, which is basically, there's only one time of year where like being aggressive is actually a good idea, and that's during the summer. And all the other time is you're sort of guiding yin toward the next thing, right?
Yeah.
Or following yin toward the next thing.
That's literally what we were talking about in the driveway. There's just like, people keep confusing strength with power, right? Or power for strength, or, it's like the idea is like, power is connecting, is kind of a balance between yin and yang, but we're so used to just athletically trying to achieve that strong, we're doing punches out there. And Alan was just like, man, that's so hard. And then the second he just connected to his relaxation, he was throwing 3-4 times the power, and he didn't even believe it. He was like, really? That's it? It's like, we got him to relax. And, because he's coming from a wrestling background, so it's athleticism, achieve. But even really good wrestlers are very, relaxed. They're dynamic.
Calm
but
and
they're
in that
relaxed.
form.
Yeah.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, so this earth element business is really this kind of opportunity to back up and check in on that, and it happens 4 times a year. So that dragon and goats. So dragon and goat basically bookend the summer. In between that, like yang is taking off, but has a short runway to actually make an impact. Was the reason why dragons don't need a runway; they just go straight up. Like, right, so they take off like a serpent. They don't have wings and have to flap, like they just go straight up into the atmosphere. So that's the notion, like what lifts us up, in that kind of effortless.
Wow, where did you get my wings now?
I mean, we are talking about wood this year, which is wind. Wood is the wind, busy lifting thing. But that kind of like wind energy like has no form, and like we don't even know that it's doing anything unless there's something to blow that it's being blown by. So there's a lot of clues about what we can expect from the wood element in wind.
So what you're kind of saying is, we want to check in at the beginning of the year. You're like, okay, there's gonna be a lot of energy, there's gonna be a lot of things coming at you. So now I want you to check in and see what you built rapport with, what feels good.
Yeah.
And so just kind of take a beat, look around, and just kind of say, okay, this feels right.
Yeah, and think about like these the availability of this energy, both in short-term and long-term sorts of manifestations. That would be the play. I've had a lot of clients that I've talked with, just talking about like, what you're reaching for is manifestation. You want everything. Well, when is it gonna happen? You know, like,
Yeah.
when am I gonna get the things I want? You know, when am I gonna turn the corner on this?
Yeah.
Like, it may not be this year.
Yeah.
This year may be about planting seeds. Like,
Okay, so that's an interesting thing. So this is part of the discipline. You wanna do 1,000 things.
Right.
But you can do 1,000 things on one thing, right? The frequency of check-ins, like, I learned this when I was diagnosed with ADHD when I was a kid. I learned that it wasn't about having, well, I use a discipline, as my teacher said. He said there's no such thing as ADHD, you just need the truth. Right? And so he said, you're not, and then I associate, and basically I always say, there's no such thing as awesome deficiency disorder from the kids that can't stand up and do awesome stuff and they can sit in the desk all day. There's no such thing as that, right? I just needed to be racing motorcycles or fighting or something, right? But that being said, I learned that I needed a frequency of interaction with my environment. And so what I learned was when I'm in a conversation, when I'm racing, when I'm fighting, there's a quick frequency of feedback. So I learned to, instead of things kind of the frequency of check-in, even now if I'm doing website stuff or filming, I don't look at the long-term goal. I break it up into about 1,000 little steps to where I'm always, because if I don't do that, I'm gonna have this 3-month goal, and within that, I'm gonna do 100 other things on the periphery.
right, so the tangent
yeah.
is the biggest
Yeah.
issue, like in the first 2 moons of the year, and they happen to be both a fire tiger and a fire rabbit moon, which made us prone to tangent.
Yeah.
It made us prone to getting spun out,
Yeah.
you know, in a variety of different things, and not develop an appetite to double check.
Yeah.
So if people are feeling kind of like lackadaisical and calm, it's probably because they spent their energy already, you know, like exhausted themselves. It's a very important time to like actually really, whatever pace you need to actually really authenticate like what it is your appetite is asking for, like how an appetite meaning how you take care of yourself, how you develop rapport in life, not just the things you own, people you know, like what, you know, pursuits you want to develop, you know, all that stuff takes time. And what's the adage? I can't remember the exact, it takes like one person to plant 5,000 plants and like 50,000 people to, you know, take up the harvest, right? So like you can, there's a Chinese adage for this, I can't remember right now, but the import is that a set of hands can plant all these ideas, and like, but it'll take like a whole army to actually harvest it, you know? So I think that, you know, when we're talking about this year, and I know that this conversation has integrated talking about the year with where we are now. But one of the things I can say about like summer going into fall is that it's an important check-in point on the seeds that we've planted. But I would caution people against thinking that like all like the dreams will come true. Like some things may actually come through like very strongly. I'm not saying that there isn't a possibility for things to manifest. It's just that they're not going to be strong. They'll need to be sustained.
I'm gonna start holding you accountable to a little bit of good news sometimes.
That's what I'm trying to do right now.
He's like, you're like my mom with backhanded compliments all the time.
But people project on the dragons.
No,
You
sure.
know this better than anyone.
Yeah.
Right, so people project into the dragon chi as like the source of their grandeur, because in the West, we equate heaven with commanding our environment rather than being in partnership with it. And dragon here is to remind you that you're not in control. And I'm here to remind you.
What's this? Lens, what's that?
And that's unless you cultivate yin, that's the real thing. It's like in the middle of winter when yin is like incredibly dominant and we have to preserve yang qi, we have to kind of hold tight is like a little candle, and it's like,
Mm.
well, not really easy, right? So you have to animate, this interior storage of yang into like a pristine condition, and then you can release it into the world gradually in the spring. And then now, it's about to be dominated by yang, right?
Mm.
What we store in now is yin. We cultivate our potential. We don't spend it all in one place.
Yeah.
That's the idea, that we should hold on to some of our potential. And we should be smart about these things.
Mhm.
Because it is a reality that summer from this cosmological tradition is a dangerous time. It's not a free and easy. It should be free and easy. You should, in fact, you should be embracing yin in the middle of summer. Relax in the heat and like chill,
There's Qigong for that.
Oh, excellent.
Yeah, there's Qigong for that. So you have all this like stuff happening, right? And then you want to hone in to a single point of focus, right? So it's the same move. It's actually a exploding move where I open and close. And so this kind of opening movement is an expression of that spring, summer, everything's growing, sprouting, blooming in all directions, right? However, now it's that time of introspection, reflection, kind of honing in on a single point of focus.
Yes.
Just made it up.
Don't overdo it, and like that's Bing would say all the time, it's like, this is where all your chronic diseases actually are born, is during this time.
Well, it's weird because it's like during summer, it's kind of one of those things. It's like summer is doing its thing, so you should cultivate yin because it's already doing the.
It's already doing it, yeah.
But it's funny because like when we're in winter, you're like, just go in, be more yin.
Well,
Should
no,
we be yinging?
well, that's, it's considered to be animating yang within
Okay.
with self-reflection.
Oh, yeah. Oh, okay.
And nourishing it with self-reflection. You're nourishing, because all the dreams that you're attempting to embody didn't arrive in summer. They arrived in the winter. In the middle of winter is when like people are like, this is how I want my life to be different.
Are you trying to choose which sound effects?
Right. This is where we come into contact with the things that really motivate us, and as it turns out, they're not just ours, there's a lot of ancestral influence on all of those things, and we're being exposed to that. So that's the general assumption in the winter time, is that we're available, to that kind of feedback, and we're available to our own selves easily. And so we animate yang with this kind of interior circulation.
Okay.
Like rather than having it circulate outward, it circulates inside, right? We water the plants inside. And then when the transference happens, it's a sort of gradual process.
Where tea growing from the inside and gradual process of slowly growing deeper and deeper.
Yeah. So, but of course, whatever we imagine doesn't always come true, right? We put it out there, but then we have to listen and get a response. And it's that listening capacity that yang, as like the prince that's about to ascend to the throne, shouldn't lose. It shouldn't lose its capacity to like listen to its instincts, to take advice, to work collaboratively. It shouldn't lose that just because it gets power, because then it becomes belligerent and destroys potential. And that's where this idea of cultivating chronic conditions comes from, because we basically keep amplifying ourselves and want to push harder, 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 and we deplete yin. And then you deplete yin so much, you deplete your qi, and then you can't respond to treatment, and you're pretty much on your way out. And that's all, I think, one of the sort of cornerstones or fundamentals for all the kind of metabolic diseases that we experience as a culture, is and loneliness. You can't recognize your resources because you burnt them out, you know, inside. You can't see the love that's around you.
Mhm.
Um,
Well, that's why this, want to know what I've learned this week? I've been filming tea ceremony. And tea ceremony is way more important and deep. And just that whole concept of slow down, feel, appreciate, and celebrate abundance and be grateful.
Right, tea is definitely, I agree with you, there's a
Yeah.
lot of abundance in
Yeah.
tea.
amazing.
And it is extraordinary, and like, I've heard people talk about tea, you know, in this kind of like flowery,
Mhm.
oh, the abundance, you know, like, and it drives me nuts. But like, when you actually feel it, when you do it yourself, you know, and it's an offering, you know, and a recognition of that kind of exchange, like when you enjoy the tea and then compost the tea.
Well, just in itself, to be able to slow down is abundant, because like, when you.
Great
don't-
privilege.
Yeah, when you have, I mean, just this in itself
Right,
is,
for sure.
that's saying like, I have enough,
Right,
we're good,
yeah. I've eaten today.
we're done, yeah, it's like
and
now. we can
nobody's
slow down.
shooting at me.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Doesn't have to be this grandiose gesture of like, you know, all these, you know, we're all in jet skis in our indoor pools, you know what I mean?
Yeah, I've been writing on this concept around like that being in one's experience, which is kind of a hallmark of all the contemplative traditions, to be in one's experience. Doesn't mean you're an individual.
Mhm.
It doesn't give you license to think you're an individual. It just means you're in your own experience. Like, there's a jump there that we make, that because I can think on my own, that automatically infers that I'm an individual. I think that's kind of like assuming that you can look at a cardboard cutout of a race car and think you can drive it home. It's just a manifestation. It's not really anything real. Because there's a great deal of interdependence necessarily behind that notion of persona. That like, I'm not who I am without you, bro. Or anybody in this room. Or like a host of people that like, if I had to sit back and identify those things. You know, so, which I normally don't, no one does, you know, you kind of take them for granted, like those sort of influences. So I think in the same kind of way, like
Well, that's
recognizing the abundance.
When, yeah, it's like the ability to slow down, and then the next thing that I've been writing about, and that this is like shown me, is it's the other side of the hungry ghost. Like I've talked to so many people all the time that are, when they get together, it's just, it's big consume and festival and party and like almost hedonistic, you know, there's a lot of that. But like, to be able to get with people and have a simple pleasure means you're fulfilled and you don't need much. It's just the ability to slow down is abundant.
Mhm.
And then the ability to have just the simplest pleasure and the most subtle thing means you have everything you've experienced, every type of spectacle, and you're good. Like,
Yeah.
the company's enough.
And this is you.
No, and then now I'm gonna go be a dummy spectacle. Sorry, but no, it's like being with David and being able to share tea has just been.
Thank you, David.
Mhm.
Yeah, this is using our five senses, of which there is a corollary to the five elements, right? So
Oh, yeah, yeah.
there are five elements and there are five senses, like, so. And five elements don't have a beginning or an end, like, it's just the way things appear and disappear. And will continue after we're done, you know? So it's nothing to cry about, like, one of my favorite phrases and things, like, you're crying about something that has no hope of leaving. It just continues, like everything continues, everything here, everyone in this room, everyone watching, immortal.
Yeah.
You're not going anywhere.
What did Bill Withers say? It's just wasted water, tears is wasted water that don't grow flowers.
I hate the wrong one.
That's the opposite of Bill Withers. In that sound.
Super appropriate.
Well, how about this? Good luck, bad luck, who knows?
Okay.
Who's got it good, but it's really running short, and who's got it bad, but they're really gearing up for something.
Rats are a very comfortable place right now. You would imagine, like, because right now everything is about an assessment of resources. And rats are very good at that. In fact, they're watching everybody else not assess their resources and they're judging them. Oxen, you know, again, aren't really paying attention. They're probably way too busy for their own good.
That's my son.
And so they are at risk of kind of hitting a wall.
Oh, man.
By the time, yeah, actually, I would say they're at most risk of hitting the wall. By the time what would that be? Sixth moon, the goat moon comes, boom, they knock out because they're running too hard or they're doing too much, carrying too much weight.
He's going to kung fu class.
Right, he does have a pretty vibrant imagination.
Yeah,
He's
little guys
flying rocket
burning-
ships.
Yeah, burning the candle at both ends. You know, he's hugging everybody.
Day.
He's starting judo this.
Oh, God.
Now he's gonna know how to fall in.
He's
throw
gonna grab a hold of my
people.
cat and
Yeah,
throw me
yeah,
down.
yeah.
So those are our oxen.
Tigers are probably one of the ones that are at most risk, just because, as we talked about in the beginning of the year, their fantasy is that I'm talking to our friend Brian today, want to fly. No, don't try and fly. It might not work out very well for you. So this is the kind of time of year where the chi is really starting to accelerate, when they might feel emboldened to like run and jump, you know, kind of by. So they should just be, they should look and see what. Rabbits and dragons do very well, and snakes. Most people do well, I would say, because this is a kind of assessment time. The only ones that won't do or that are somewhat at risk are the ones that kind of like go forward or lurch, you know, they tend to lurch.
Maybe like horse.
Horses, tigers, you know, even a pig.
Are horses and tigers in the tribe?
They are, yeah, with dogs. So obviously this is the time where dogs should like just watch in a cellar.
So don't.
Please don't let dogs down.
What should a dog be doing this year?
Being with their friends, pretty much. Like they should be hunkered down with their friends. They should keep their circles like very small, very, very tight.
That's their whole year thing, right? You were saying.
That's their whole
Don't
year,
break
you know,
up.
so this is a really good time for them to like really kind of sort of disappear into their close-knit family.
Hmm.
And however that expresses. And that's also good advice for pigs. Just because I mean, the impact of this particular time of year is quite broad, you know, like if you're not prepared for it, then you can, you know, kind of get trampled by it. And that's, I'm not, you know, pigs and dragons get along very well, but like big dragons can be kind of like, you know, kind of tumbled over, you know, like they didn't see it coming. And they recover just fine, but like, but might like give them a little bit of a wobbly, considering the fact that the next one is a snake. They should, you know,
What are your biggest insights so far, like successes and insights this year so far?
for myself.
Yeah. As a pig.
I very much like wood, dragon and chi generally, because it's artistic capacity.
I like the dragon too.
Yeah. If I get the right, you know, the ones from Taiwan, like really.
I like jazz and wood dragon cheese.
But it has this kind of like effervescence
And
a strong capacity for like expression.
Okay.
And so we can all experience it like every 5 days in the morning. You know, because there's the wood dragon hour that you can experience.
what time is that?
Right now, if you're in daylight savings time, it's 8 to 10. Normally from 7 to 9, so that's like every 5 days, there's a wood dragon hour, you know, and like I do a lot of really good work during that time.
And we just passed a crazy like dragon year, dragon month, dragon day, dragon hour.
Yeah, we got another one coming. Yeah. But yeah, like, yeah, so you had, and it was like, I don't know. There's a lot of intense things, for sure. And, yeah.
I still haven't gotten an apology from anyone that was reading it. And after Y2K and the 2012 thing, you guys are done.
Yeah, I'm
No,
not telling
you're not allowed to predict the stupid end of the world. I will say, I want an apology the day after, and no one's giving me an apology. Thank you very much. You know, stop tripping.
I call, I frame eclipses as nature's stroke.
Oh, yeah.
Wow.
Nature having a stroke, mini stroke. Like, that doesn't last very long, but strokes don't need to last long to do damage. You know,
It's like when you know, when you're walking down the hallway and you see somebody, you think you're going this way and they're going that way, but both, you know, you both go the same way and it's like that weird dance. That's what it shows.
Wow, so it sounds like someone's having an epileptic seizure and yeah, because we were stoked as a culture on this
Yeah.
eclipse.
Oh, yeah.
People travel.
Wide over.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I know. Yeah.
Like, wow, eclipse, oh my God, I'm touched. And then,
Right.
Are there locusts?
They're coming.
There are.
Are they out?
Are they out?
Okay.
the cicadas, right?
Yeah, have they happened yet?
There's like a huge cicada thing. I haven't.
Everyone's like, eclipse is on the 7th, by the 8th, the world will be covered in locusts. I'm just, again, still no apologies. And no one backs out of it. They just like kind of go back to the business.
So part of these things are based in obviously a theistic tradition, you know, a revelatory tradition, which is very common, you know, in human societies. It's just like not very well thought out. Yeah, it's like a kind of limited, narrow scope of what these sorts of things entail, right? If your culture is a solar-based culture and the moon goes in front of it, everybody freaks the hell out, right? But this particular cosmology is a lunar-based culture. It's like, okay, whatever, you know, like this is not, I mean, you can track them, they're fairly regular. But for instance, the people who like basically connect their aspirations to such a thing, such an event, that means you don't get any momentum from your astrology, what you tie things to until the next, which would be like several years. So like, if you're trying to build rapport with your environment and you are making offerings in support of your aspiration to an astrological event that only occurs every 5 years and doesn't even occur over your house, it's like over on the other part of the world now. That means you have to spend a lot of your resources to actually get momentum from that relationship.
Yeah, because the Hale-Bopp comet only comes once every 120 years. So those people that really read Converse and all killed themselves for the comet.
I mean, you gotta make it count because it's not coming around again.
For another 120 years.
Right, exactly. You know, so, but this is based in a revelatory notion of the world. That there is a singular event, that singular event will take you across the threshold. And so it's a way of relating to the world, just not very consistent. I mean, for what it is,
It can't be consistent if you kill yourself.
I mean, but it doesn't take in more data, you know, of all the data of things that occur on the regular, which is the reason why this particular cosmology is lunar, because that cycle happens over and over and over and over and over and over and over every day we're in it, you know, so all better to align yourself with the
You can
moon.
see it change.
Yeah, it talks to you, you know, it's like very clear, whereas the sun gives us 0.0000005% of its energy and like has like only says one thing, you know.
We use him in on Scott's face and just say, and just put some sort of caption, it's like, he's really disappointed in you.
I mean, I'm disappointed in
This
this
time, and he feels you could give more. And stop withholding and I feel
Well,
like
it's considered the herald of Yang. It's the herald of Yang Qi. So it is the source of all Yang Qi on the planet. Like with no sun, no Yang, no life. Like it's it. Yeah, but all our potential just.
Yes.
So it's the herald of Yang, but it's also incredibly dangerous. Moon's much more approachable. Right, so you can actually commune with the moon.
Hey, everybody, come on by. The moon.
You should understand, this is like spring into summer, so all this kind of flirty
I brought
business is
socks.
actually pretty consistent. But we didn't talk about monkeys this moon. Obviously, you guys are doing all right.
You know, my rabbit month is,
Over.
yeah.
Yeah. Rabbit month is not good for monkeys.
Mm.
Not a fire rabbit. Anyway, so it's better, you know, like, it's, there's more to work with. and more parameters to, or compromise or like play with,
Yeah, I felt like,
There's a ground for the monkey to play in.
for sure, yeah, and what you were talking about, of how everything's happening all at once, it definitely is present to that.
Yeah,
early on, and now
Which is-
a lot of the projects are taking legs
right,
and really hone in a bit more on
Right.
what's working.
right. So that gives it gives a forum for the versatility of the monkey to have meaning, which is like what you're trying to do is develop meaning and purpose during this time. Trying to clarify meaning and purpose, authenticate, our inspiration and develop an intention. Intentions in spring, or the first 2 moons of spring, way too soon. Right? It's just about, you should be exploring what feels new and fresh. And then by the time you're getting to this point, the 3rd moon, yes, you should be developing an intention, because if you basically just say, well, I don't know, like you're gonna operate on old intentions, you're gonna operate on your favorite intentions, you're gonna be habitual. So in the wood dragon year, it's kind of like in a wood dragon year where inventiveness and planting seeds is actually available all year long. And so, but it's gonna take different shapes and forms. Right now, in an earth dragon moon, that means you have the potential to authenticate your inspirations and some of these seeds that you're planting, and develop protection. Because even though you have this sort of adversarial relationship between wood and earth, technically, what harms wood, or what destroys wood on the elemental scale is metal. And that's in a couple months, right? So what you want to do is fortify, and earth generates metal, so earth then becomes like a protector of wood. It helps like fortify aspirations, give legs, let's say, give feet. So you want to go with those things that have feet. You want to go with those things that have like some sense of longevity and capacity for actual fulfillment. If we're talking about, bringing something across the line, or your sort of first stages of a long-term plan, because in a wood dragon year, you should be imagining not just this year, you should be imagining like the next 4 years or so, like, because the next 2 earth years are the earth monkey, earth rooster, right? So 4 years from now, there should be a kind of manifestation available of the seeds we plant now. That's like one kind of way to look at it.
Wow.
So, I mean, when you're talking about transformation, like real, genuine transformation, wood dragon is like pretty much the chi you want, but you can't sleep on it. You can't just be like, plant the seed, walk away. It might do something, it just may not do something for you.
Okay, so I'm writing this one in one of the chapters, and the thing I'm writing is, we talk about this, transformation versus like conversion or remodeling. It's like transformation will happen no matter what. You can just sit there, you'll transform. Right?
Yeah.
So the act is like, how do you point in a direction and actually work and help, kind of tugboat it, sort of in a certain direction and make choices along the way.
Yeah. Well, that sounds like more like developing an intention. Yeah. And like when like next moon, when we're talking about the Earth snake moon, very good, like great moon, like excellent, like for developing like a really deep, rewarding level of maturity. So and that maturity is based around a recognition of the alchemy that is required for actual fulfillment, meaning that like everybody's contributing in like very significant ways, and that again helps to fortify the inspirations, helps to give that inspiration legs when more people, not just you, but when like 60 other people are benefiting from from that original idea, then that means it has to succeed, because there's like too many people that are really tied into it. So you basically sell shares of whatever it is you want to do, get people involved. That would be more or less the guidance when you're thinking about the snake moon,
Right,
which is coming up. And that is a way of like continuing to authenticate the inspiration by expanding.
Well, that's the chaos of creation, and creation can't happen without that mind then over time, it's, I mean, it's when you write a song, it's like, it's all these ideas, all these ideas.
Right.
And
And then it takes form.
And over time, it just becomes refined, it becomes watertight. But like, it's a mind map and bubbles and just chaos and chaos and chaos, and it just keeps being refined, and it's a fun process, but it, you know.
So bringing imagination into a place of fulfillment is not like, not a simple task, because wood element, going back to the 5 element conversation, is not, it doesn't carry a form, it's a wind. You know, so like, how do you identify it? It takes some process.
What elements win?
Wood element, the wood element that is the wood element of the wood dragon here is wind, and very strongly this sense of wind. So it's not really providing its own manifestation. Yes, transformation happens all the time, but just speaking on the available chi, it's planting seeds and celebrating all the potential, but not giving you really any clue about how it's going to go. You're going to see that a couple of years from now, right? Like when you start getting into the fire years, then things are kind of taking off on their own in a particular direction. And so we get little hints here and there, and that's why I come back to short-term, long-term kinds of understandings when it comes to thinking about potential, because you should be thinking about potential all year long, because that's what's actually available. You know, like of the 5 dragons, the wood dragon is lightweight, and then by design, you know, it's supposed to be lightweight but how many great, beautiful sculptures are made by wind carving into rock and like creating these like magnificent, magical structures that appeal to water, you know, that appeal to this kind of imagination quality. Because anytime you're pressing into to wood, you go back to water. That's why I think I said in the first lecture that we did about the year, is that if you try to press into wood, you just go back to water. Like it will slide back to water very easily. And that is essentially asking the question, what are you carrying from last year into this year? You know, what are either the inspirations, the frustrations, all the emotions, because guaranteed they're inspiring you or discouraging you or informing you in some way about how you're perceiving the potentials of your world now. Basically the thing that the wood dragon is manifesting is the content of the water rabbit. And we see that on like large political scales with like very continuing to vicious behavior, you know, like on many fronts in many places. So that's one example, but there's a lot of other examples like more close and personal to you. And so you can come back to those places now and see like how they affect you, how you cultivated them. Do they have legs or should have legs? Just being responsible, you know, developing that sense of maturity. And that will reflect an integrity, that will reflect something about you, your character. I wrote earlier, how you wait for something you want is basically a demonstration of your character. If you're like, yeah, you know, that's what you got. But if you're able to kind of sit back and strategize and do other things, it's just, there's a lot you can say about someone based on how they wait for something.
Always forget about it.
There you go.
Sounds like a Heinz commercial.
Yeah.
Ooh, whoa, explain.
All good things
Come to those who wait. Never catch up. You don't want.
I don't
have TV.
That's true.
Anyway, it's a perfect segue.
Oh, wow, really?
What would Wing?
What would Ming
What would
do?
Ming
Oh, man. Gosh, that's a great question. Well, I think it depends on the plans he would have made for the wood dragon here, you know, because there's an initiatory quality to it, and perhaps, you know, just projecting into like how he would want to be moving with the school, you know, or teaching offerings and things of that nature. The wood dragon year is an excellent year for initiation, you know, of like new locations, new schools, maybe even initiating students, you know, to be their teachers, like expanding the benefit of it. I think that if he had managed to survive these years that all of us have been
I
going
also
through,
think he would definitely be
down for the masa.
grabbing some banana chocolate, some olives.
How much of them do you eat?
None yet.
Just one.
None yet.
So you don't know?
No, I'm really excited about it.
Yeah.
though. I mean, I just keep it there.
That's a reminder.
The security. The security.
My security.
You wanna know
masa.
how I wait for what I want? I just slide it right there, I just keep it there.
I keep it by my,
It's training me right now, discipline,
my right elbow.
training me.
So I think that in terms of his dedication as an educator, and his dedication as an educator is like what I would basically refer to all of this year, given the fact that like his intention to sort of expand offerings and to make people from in, bring people into their own capacity to hold. He was very encouraging about those things, right up until he died. So I think at this point in time, shoot, he'd be like breaking ground on a new project, breaking ground on like having, because he wanted to be up in BC, right? So he would have like build more places for people to stay and come study and do retreats and meditations and stuff. So it would have been tangible, it would have been a kind of tangible offering for that reflected the commitment, of a community. So if we have that available to us, like it's a perfect time. I mean, I don't know, to your point, just about like being discouraging action, like, please do things, like go, like the way we talked about this last time, it's like circulate, like make commitments, definitely make commitments, like step back. And the idea behind reluctance isn't to be like coy or like lazy even. It's just about watching. If I have an intention and like I feel really good about this intention, it's like sleep on it, like I really want that sweater. I'm gonna wait till next week just to see if I still want it, like basic stuff like that. But when you're like, the most amazing thing I can think of is like, oh, okay, I just got really excited about playing music. Okay. So I just go home and I practice.
Yeah.
And I don't tell anyone. That's what I'm doing. I just make, because that shows that I'm really dedicated. That I really care about this thing. So I don't really want to talk about it. I just want to like work on it. And then there comes a day where you're just somewhere and there's a guitar and like you're in a gathering and then you're sharing.
Yeah.
And then people are like, do you play music? Like that's that moment for this cosmology is a sign of great success.
There's like my aunt had my great aunt, my aunt Patty, she's somewhere. I'm just gonna assume you're up there.
Peace be with you.
Whew, man, you were intense. But she was awesome and I loved her with all my heart. And she was this little 4'11" bundle of power. And but she taught me two things. First one was always carry a steak knife. And then second was it's not welcome to my family.
I don't see a
And
steak knife.
I don't have a steak knife. I was like, you know what, I'm gonna let you have that one, Aunt Patty. But the other one was we all get a case of the eye once. And she'd be like, you just have a case of the eye once. Give it time. But yeah.
I think it's probably one of the most valuable lessons. I got
Yeah.
similar lessons when I was younger. Yeah. How does it feel to want? Like take it in, like let's sit with that. But like you shouldn't take it seriously.
Yeah,
Because
yeah.
it's probably gonna be gone next week.
Yeah.
You'll be on to the next thing.
For real. So many times I wanted to tattoo, and then
Yeah.
like 5 years later, it's like so bad.
You know how long it took me to plan this one? Like it took a trip to London to get it right. So like I was that kind of like in on it. It's like you get real close to it before you make that kind of decision. And even then, like it's a funny story, like Carrie Barba, thank you. I go for my first appointment. I had to fly all the way down to Long Beach. And I should not have done quite that way. Anyway, I get all the way there, take a flight, get to the thing, rental car, go there, walk in the thing. And she's like, you all right? I'm like, I don't think I can do this. And like, and God bless her. She just said, go home. you're okay. Like, nothing needs to happen.
No.
Give me a call. I go home and like, definitely cried my eyes out, like got on the plane and was like, that right there was just like, okay, I can do this. Like that I knew that that person was like gonna be there for me, through that, in that kind of way, like available and like understanding. That meant that I could really trust her. And that was like the moment for me where I was like, okay, she's fucking helpful. Like I would recommend her to everybody. So, but it's just that kind of before you take those sorts of big grandiose steps, like just understand that like part of your hesitation should be natural, very natural. And it could actually be more of a sign of like your real deep investment. But like now we have like this kind of attitude like that if you're really serious about something, you should be claiming it to everyone.
Well, that's, I use social media as a way to, if
It's terrible.
usually I see if people are posting something, it's usually because it's some form of novelty. Right, and if
Yeah,
I wanna
true,
post
yeah.
something, it's because it never happens and I wanna post it. But then the second it becomes normal, I don't post it. Right, and so it's kind of like, I was looking through my social media just the other day, I was like, I haven't posted anything in a long time. And it's because everything I'm doing now is just kind of very integrated, it's very simple.
And it's taking time.
Well, and it's not important, no one needs to know, like, this is special. I mean, we're doing it here, but it's like but this is, the amount of times this happens before this happens is a lot.
Yeah.
And so, I don't think posting about your everyday experience, I mean, some people wanna do that, but that's just, probably they're just alone and dying inside.
I think
I'm not-
personally, I think the whole social media is, I've been thinking about it, it's actually really wonderful. Because I feel lately I've been like, this is a way people can reclaim like their yin. Being grateful for things like connection, making, they actually care about something. This is a sort of a phase, I guess, of the internet age where it's like content creation, so real content creation.
Yeah.
But as long as you don't take it very seriously,
Well, yeah,
then it can actually really be a source of connection. Like
Well, that's social media for me is very social, or used to be. It's how I met a lot of my heroes.
Yeah.
And we've talked about that. I've just reached out to artists that I just love their work, and I'm like, love your work. And even this month or next month, there's it was a couple of years ago when I was first starting roller skating, I found this guy, Jedediah or J-Rock, and now he's like one of the biggest roller skaters at Disney show, and he's like all over the world. But it's like when you only have like 800 followers, I was just like, I think you're the best roller skater, and I've watched your stuff, and I consider you my roller skating teacher. Like you are a person that probably, yeah. And then and I reached out to him, and now we're buddies, and I talked to him on the phone, and all this other stuff. And now he's gonna be in town. I finally get to actually meet him, and but he's coming here now, and he's like a star. So there's it's gonna be sold out workshops and all this other stuff. But like I got to reach out to him.
Yeah.
When he was under 50,000 followers or whatever he's got.
Yeah, really cool.
It's amazing.
experience.
Yeah.
I've had a lot of clients, through the offerings that I post. They're just like, do you do personal readings? I'm like, sure. And it's not really about benefit, it's just about like the opportunity for having a discussion, especially when everybody feels so siloed. I take issue with that. It's like, you're not actually as siloed as you think. You're pretty connected.
Well, how about this? How are we doing on our dragon year? Did we get anything you wanted to say?
I think so.
Should we open it up to?
Yeah,
audience
questions? Yeah.
Anyone here? Local questions, in-house questions?
Everything you said about dog, and it's literally come to fruition in my life and in fruition of my expectations of the future and planning the future. Everything.
For those that can't hear Brother Fruit, we have a dog in the house and he's
Yeah,
praising the
like
dog.
And so I'm wondering if you could give advice, insight, and maybe some expectations, or I guess some foresight on things I might be feeling and experiencing and why and what to expect, etc.
Yeah, I mean, the
For
like,
those that can't hear the question.
I'm sorry.
It's all good, it's all good, we're just asking for more. The dog.
yeah, it's mostly lay low year, you know, like,
I'm already, yeah. I'm
Yeah,
doing
I
that.
mean,
I'm
good.
absorbing a lot.
yeah,
I'm doing, yeah, I'm
Yeah.
like, this is a time where I feel like, I have long-term training. People are trying to get me into teaching, but I only feel comfortable teaching small circles
smart, yeah.
and, exclusive small circles.
Yeah, make it
With a
intimate.
lot of deep meaning, but, more so I have a lot of deep training that I plan for the next couple of years, and then I plan an explosion.
Okay, so I would,
Look at those eyes, if you guys can't see his eyes,
I would time your,
he's planning.
Alexander the Great.
Yeah, he's,
okay, all right.
he's got the hat, he's got the thing, and he's in the night, and it's a lot.
I would time the explosion for like 2026.
Yeah, let's keep talking about this on the internet, let's just
And
keep.
it's like, and it doesn't, it's not me timing it per se, but it feels like that is, like I'm cooking, and that's how long it's gonna take for it to cook, and it's just going to be potentially available at that time, and I've already felt that.
Yeah, positioning yourself well now means that your summer, like the dog moon, or sorry, the horseman in particular, can be, you know, an expression and a lesson of priorities, you know, so, which will be true for all of us. But there's actually, if you're talking about like, learning and teaching, that horse moon, in this year would actually be, a really, vital time for dogs, if they position themselves correctly. So like generally speaking, expectations should be low for dogs, but there are windows, you know, there are like pockets of like revelation.
It's like next month.
Yeah, so like.
I feel very
May,
strong
June.
epiphanies. I receive like epiphanies and I feel them they become very powerful and life changing.
Yeah, journal.
Journal.
Yeah, journal.
I got a journal.
Journal man.
I got
And then, you know, winter can be, if, for dogs, if they can serve and they know how to, self-regulate and, you know, like be in the right sort of space, like minimized, then, winter can be really, really sweet. And then from that winter place, you know, new imaginings for how to, you know, the kind of guidance for the snake year. Because snake year is still a bit of a risk for dogs.
Still the tail of the dragon.
Yeah, you want to be really dedicated to something, which dogs do very well. But like, be on the lookout for how that dedication might be undermined by unexpected sorts of things that would happen. And that may happen a little bit kind of like in the winter time, so it's good to bring the chi in, like protect yang and enjoy, just enjoy, you know, instead of like pressing forward.
Please zoom in on his face.
Bring the chi in.
Zoom in on his face and I'll just be like, right now, David
It
Wade,
should be its own
shredding the
flag.
bass guitar.
Should be its own flag.
There it is, yeah, just shredding the bass, you just make, yeah, you make
I
good
feel
bass.
all of those things really confused and interwoven into all of my life right now. My life is extremely different than it was 2 years ago. Extremely. Everything you're saying is really just all part of the essence of everything that is my life now. Without my own control, it's just happening.
Yeah, water element would, of the last 2 years, it's swept a lot of things away, you know, for a lot of people, which then, there's one of the primary metaphors of Chinese culture is this notion of flood, right? And that the flood destroys, but then it also leaves behind like very important nutrients for the sustenance of life. So it's, yeah, you can't have one without the other, like the regulation and the maintenance of water. Again, earth and water, like the two primary, those are the two movers of appearance and disappearance. Those are the two, like, we feel, the appearance of earth, and then we feel the disappearance of water. So those two things come from.
That's really fascinating.
We were just having a deep conversation
Hold
on
on one second.
karmic relativity. Oh,
Hear you.
oh, okay. I know, my voice is not.
It's great.
Thank you. So low tone. But Dave, Wayne and I were having a really deep conversation about some really difficult, life-changing events that we have both, we've been experiencing both since the age of 5. And it really, everything that you said really aligns with everything that we discussed in this deep karmic conversation and everything that we've been dealing with since the age of 5. And that was just, seemingly a coincidence. Both of us have been dealing with a lot of really different, powerful issues since the age of 5. We got references, but all had to do with flow and difficulty of feeling destruction of the water, but that I was telling him that, or reminding him, he already knows this, but reminding him that the destruction in those waves, essentially, if we were using it in terms of water and flow, now it flowed into making us really these really gifted individuals with these unique, powerful gifts. And in reality, I don't wish a lot of what's happened to either of us on anyone, but there is a reward in allowing the flow of and seeking flow through all of the destruction and using that flow in a positive direction.
Yeah, I was thinking about this phrase of give me liberty or give me death.
Right.
Did you make it up?
That's good, dude. That's a good one, right? Yeah. Well, it's a huge phrase that is like idealized in our culture as a profound understanding of like who we are as a people.
And I made that reference. We were referencing people like, why wouldn't they? Why doesn't he have the karma that he should have? And I was like, I'd rather die than be that person.
Yeah, so the thing that's lost in understanding that phrase, give me liberty or give me death, is the trauma of it. Because you wouldn't, for the people who experience that, of someone like being decapitated because they wouldn't concede or whatever, give me liberty or give me death. So they give him death. The people who witness that, they don't idealize the behavior. It is a tragedy for the people who are actually present for that. And so I think that some of the things are sort of lost because we idealize that kind of like full commitment, to who we are, or who we imagine ourselves to be. And I can tell you that like the general attitude in the Chinese tradition does not carry that. They're not interested in being martyrs, right? They're interested in expressing their faith and like in resolving their faith, but and waiting, being very willing to wait. There's like whole things about between Confucian leaders that basically head for the hills because the government is just not available, for them to make an impact. So do they lead a revolution and say, give me liberty or give me death? They say, no, they go to the hills, wait for things to change, continue to teach the people who are interested, and eventually the revolution will come. It doesn't require somebody to die on a cross.
I feel everything I've been feeling and thinking, everything you just said verbatim, word for word, literally.
So like appreciate like what you survived. And of course you shouldn't listen.
when I've worked with a lot of activist groups and a lot of the high ups, they get into saying the truth, like the hard truths and like calling things out. But a common thing that happens is that they're going for that give me liberty or give me death. They're like, I'm gonna speak the truth, whether it kills, and a lot of them will be like, I don't care if there's a big thing where a lot of people want to be so truthful and so impactful that they're so important that someone like awesome, right? You know, like a lot of people, that's the ultimate goal. Like,
Well, martyrdom.
Yeah.
It's like very
And,
popular.
but they talk like that, but what happens is that energy usually gets in a few really interested people, but then it pushes up the rest of the people away, and then they start feeling frustrated, and then escapism, and then you get really sad.
And it makes the message like not very adaptable.
There's venom and malice and resentment.
Yeah.
There's a lot of things in it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so
I
you
feel like-
want to preserve adaptability in whatever it is that you're looking to bring forward for people to utilize.
Mhm.
To better human lives, adaptability, that's one of the major reasons why adaptation is actually the primary value in Chinese cosmology. How do we just adapt?
You gave, I think your example that you gave of harvesting the tea and planting the tea.
Yeah.
You know, I think that is a perfect example of, I believe, how the real flow of that to realistically be done is.
Yeah.
Is,
For the Chinese tradition, all culture is agriculture. So you don't have human culture without agriculture. Yeah, you don't. Like you make partnerships with plants. That's why we are. Yeah, holla.
Do you have a question? Okay.
Relationships with plants, it's a relationship.
Any questions from our studio audience or any questions from our online Zoom audience?
No.
Maybe in the chats. Okay, well, we're at 8:30. We're a half hour over as we intended
That's
to.
ridiculous.
Well, but as always, you should tell Connie. But still.
Oh, yeah, Connie,
Oh.
what's our Instagram?
This is-
26.
Tastes like water.
26, which is a great store. It's about abundance, like managing of abundance. Get ahead of it, get ahead of managing abundance. Because the next time we come to a place like this, it will be the goat moon. And the goat moon is like recognizing everybody's contribution and distributing fairly all the abundance.
And goat moon, that'll be our 3rd year,
Really?
because we started on goat moon, dude.
Wait, this?
Yeah.
Mm.
3
This
years?
project started-
3rd?
It'll be this 2 years complete.
2 years complete, so we'll be going into our 3rd.
Oh, I was like, no, I was like,
That's
where have I been?
awesome.
I've transcended space and time.
Yeah, so I mean, I think it's important, the parallels in looking at the Earth moons, particularly the transition between, spring and summer and then summer and fall. It's like, because by the time, what do we talk about in the goat moon? How do you wrap it up? How do you complete things? How do you, recognize like everybody's contribution and include them in the completion ceremonies? And then get ready to harvest and share. So Yang-Chi doesn't like, it's not around forever. It's only around for this, like dragon it ascends, snake, horse. And then by the time you get to the goat moon, you're like, God, are we good? Like, how do we become good? How do we like sort of wrap it up? And then you're riding out the abundance, through and appreciating and celebrating, like endless levels of celebration between, monkey and rooster should be this kind of like exacting kind of process, but also this feeling of great appreciation.
So Mari Park says no question, but thank you for the extra time. It was great. And from Connie's, thank you, great information, appreciation, the connection with the 5 elements.
David, thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, cheers.
Oh, thank Matt for the epic full
Like,
prism
Dude,
sunshine.
this light,
have.
yeah.
I know, I was just like.
I'm like
Wow.
growing sunflower right now.
And And hopefully audio was better today too, because we're constantly trying to upgrade our user experience. There we go.
All right.
And it-
Steve. Bye. This tastes like minerals.